Hello and welcome to Always Play Blue. My name is Brian and today we're going to take a look at the third part of my top 50 of all time. I'm putting these out at the end of December 2021. I did a list last year, my first sort of top 50, that was text based on the website. This is my first time doing videos. These videos are my first time being on camera. So we're looking at a list that's changing from last year. There's ups and downs, not many ups, quite a few downs. But one of the reasons a lot of the games are getting shuffled down the list are to do with this part 3. 7 new entries out of the 10 games that we're going to talk about today. But before I carry on, just a big thank you to everyone that's watched the video so far. It means a lot. I've had some comments. It's nice to respond to those. It's nice to know that people are watching the video. It was quite a big push for me to get in front of the camera. I've done, I think, 40 or 41 unboxings up to now, where I just film the unboxings and then record a voiceover later on, and that was a big step at the time. Because I'm one of these people that doesn't like my how I look on camera. I don't like how I sound on camera. But 41 videos, I've gotten the hang of it. I've gotten used to it. My equipment still isn't the best. This microphone isn't as good as I'd hoped, so I'm having issues with the sound quality. So I apologise for that in advance if you're having to turn this right up. I am in the process of trying to get something better. The same with the camera as well. I just have a basic webcam at the moment that I'm using to record this footage. But as I get more and more into the content creation, hopefully, I can look at sort of upgrading as I go and learning new skills as I go as well. But with that out of the way, let's get on with the next 10 in my top 50. So after we started the last list on an absolutely gigantic game with War of the Ring, we're going completely other direction with one of the smallest games in the collection, and that is Tussie. This is a 2 to 4 player, although best at 2. It's a card game, sort of set collection. It's from Buttonshy, who do some amazing sort of these wallet games. We've got a few on the shelf behind, and this one specifically was designed by Elizabeth Hargrave of Mariposas and Wingspan fame. And it's just really, really good. So the aim of the game is to you're sort of collecting sets, and these all have different scoring conditions at the bottom. And there's different colour cards you can see there. You've got red, purple, yellow. I think there's a white and a pink. And it's a really clever way of doing it. It's an I cut, you choose mechanic where each turn, and I'm going to describe this as a 2-player game. I've never played the other variants, and I don't think I ever will, because this is a fantastic 1 versus 1. But the aim of the game is you put down 2 cards, one face up. So you've seen them both. One face up, one face down, and then you shove them across to your partner, and they have to choose which card they're going to take. And what's really good about this, because obviously you've got sort of the I cut you choose from, say, like Hanamakoji, and the information is all on the table. But with this, where one card is face down, it's so clever because you can really start messing with your opponent's mind with what you're showing them, whether it's good or bad. Do they want to take that because they can't see what the other card is? So that's a real gamble. But then are you hiding that card because you don't want them to see what it is? And it's a real balance of like, it's just so clever because you can really, like I say, you can really mess. Me and my girlfriend really like this game. And then the other thing as well is if you take a face-up card, it stays face-up in front of you. So you end up with a tableau of like 4 cards to do the scoring at the end of the rounds. And I believe you play with 3 rounds. That's right. But if you take a card face-up, it stays face-up in front of you, and then face down, it's face down in front of you. And obviously, if you've taken a face down card, you don't, until the scoring comes on, you don't know what you've got. So there's cards saying that if you have a certain amount of a specific colour, the one face down might be one of those ones you want, and you don't know it. They do, but you don't. So it's just very clever, very tactical, very small. Like I said, these Buttonshy wallet games are fantastic. But just it's when if we ever pack a bag to go somewhere, like we went to London recently for a few nights, or like when we went to the UK Game Expo earlier in the year, it's like the first game that I will pick up to chuck in our bag to take with us because it takes up 0 room and we have a lot of fun with it. Yes, that is Tussie from Buttonshy Games, and that's number 30. Next up is a game that was on my list last year. It's only dropped 3 places, and it is Sushi Roll. This is designed by Phil Walker Harding and published by Gamewright, who I know best as the people that do obviously the other Sushi Go Party games and the Forbidden games, Island Desert and Skies. I think I've not played that one, but this is so if you've played Sushi Go or Sushi Go Party, that's basically a card drafting game where you have a hand of different cards with different kinds of sushi on there, and you pick a card and then pass that hand to the player to your left, say, and then you get handed from the right, and you're constantly drafting for the amount of rounds, the amount of turns per round, and the different cards have different scoring mechanisms. So if you get a certain amount, if you have the most Mackie rolls, you score the most points. Second gets a lower amount, and then no one else scores. And then you have things like the puddings, where you don't score at the end of each round; you score them at the end of the game. And I kind of enjoyed it when I first played it. I do have Sushi Go on the shelf behind me. I've not played it in a long while now, and I didn't know why I didn't enjoy it until I got Sushi Roll, and it's to do with the fact that I prefer Sushi Roll, which as it's a rolling game, you can tell you roll dice, and they've all got the same symbols. You get the Mackie rolls, the tempura, the puddings. But this game has two big changes to the card game version, and that is one, all the information is open on the table. So instead of having to memorise the cards and as they're going around and trying to remember what was in each hand as it's sort of going around to the other players before it comes back to you, which is difficult because they're also taking cards away from it. So it's very hard to plan any kind of any tactics or anything. In Sushi Roll, you can see everyone's dice as they go around. What's more interesting is that you're not stuck with the dice every turn of that round, because at the beginning of your sort of turn, the dice are all re-rolled. So you have the advantage of knowing which colour dice you've got. So if you can see 3 Mackie roll dice on there, you've got a good chance of getting a good Mackie roll. But yeah, it's just brilliant in that someone is handing you a load of crap faces on a dice. Don't despair. It's up to you to roll and see if you get to it. And there's ways to manipulate this as well, which is nice because you're not just stuck with that. There's chopstick tokens and menu tokens which can be used to either re-roll or steal from an opponent, which is so frustrating when you roll good and you're not the first player and you just know that your amazing dice is about to get stolen. They're all sort of looking hungrily at your conveyor belt. Actually, really good boards, little conveyor belt design on them, so it's like you're passing the food's coming around on the sushi conveyor belt. But yeah, this is a lot of fun. It's a great gateway game. We've played it with gamers and sort of, I don't know the term, non-gamers, but less gamery people. Sort of family and friends that don't have more than say Monopoly in their collection at home. But everyone's enjoyed this. It's been easy to teach. No one's got to the end of it and gone, oh, now I get it. After the first 1 or 2 plays, it's really easy to teach. So that is my number 29. Alright, this is the second new game on the list today. It is Railroad Inc. Deep Blue Edition. It's a 1 to 6 player roll and write game designed by Helmer Hack and Lorenzo Silva and published by Horrible Guild. And obviously I had to go for the blue edition. I think there was only the 2 editions out at the time. I don't think yellow and green were available. But yeah, I had to go blue, which is Rivers and Lakes as the expansion dice in this. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So last year, it was one of the few mechanisms in board gaming that I just didn't have any interest in. Roll and write games, just either on paper or like these ones, for example, are on sort of dry erase boards, so you can just use the same ones over and over again. And yeah, just didn't appeal to me. Didn't have any interest in doing anything like that. And then to the point of when I backed Dinosaur World, and it came as the bundle with the Raw and Write edition, I didn't add that on, which I'm regretting now because it looks amazing and I'm now into this sort of genre of gaming. But I just went out on a limb and just got this one because it was blue, and I had an absolute whale of a time playing it. It's fantastic. So you just roll, I think there's 7 turns. You roll 4 dice, and you drop the dice. And you can see they've got rails on them. I'm going to drop all of them now. Roads on them. I should have just held 1 dice. Rails and roads in different sort of configurations, corners, straights, and everything. And then everyone draws those 4 dice on their map, following certain rules of entry points and how they're connected to everything. And you just do that over 7 rounds. And then there's just ways to score at the end, like longest road, amount of the middle 9 squares you've got, dead ends get you minus points. And like I said, there's expansions in these as well. We've only tried Rivers, and we only tried that recently. It I thought I was really good at Railroad Ink. I tend to win quite a bit, and I'm very happy with my layout when I'm finished. Putting Rivers into my game just destroyed me. It was a mess. I got a terribly low score. Um, I just, I just everything was coming up. So you've got the main 4 white dice, but then you've got a light blue, I think, for lakes and dark blue for rivers, and you just roll those 2 extra, whichever expansion you choose to roll. You just add those in. But yeah, roll and write games, just really enjoy this now, and I'm starting to look at some other ones as well. And I will get a copy of Raw and Write because I'm interested in that as well. Both liking the genre and the dinosaur island games. But yeah, so that's my number 28. Highly recommend. Okay, we're looking at a polyomino game next, and that is Patchwork. This is a 2-player only game designed by Uwe Rosenberg and published by Lookout Games, who make some fantastic 2-player games. I can't remember which games came first, but I found last year. I think it might be Paris, La Cité de Lumière. But I really like polyomino games. I like the puzzle of trying to put things together with certain rules. And I don't know why it took me so long to get Patchwork, because it's one of the more recent purchases. It came sort of middle of this year, but absolutely love it. It's all about putting your quilt together by taking certain polyomino tiles that are worth a certain amount of currency, which in this case are buttons. This is what you use to pay. It's also how you score at the end. So it's a real push and pull of trying to keep as many buttons as you can so you've got a decent score at the end of the game, but you have to spend big to make big, because the more expensive tiles also give you the higher amount of buttons back. So they can be quite costly. You also pay in time as well as buttons. So when you take a piece, you have to give its cost in buttons, and then you have to move your score marker around a board that gets sort of spirals round to the middle. You have to sort of move that many squares. So a really good piece shoves you far into the front, costs you a lot of buttons, but also then gives your opponent an advantage, because it's a bit like Tokaido, where the last player goes next. So if you go too far ahead, the opposition can have 2 or 3 goes maybe. But yeah, so every now and then you get a button marker as you're moving around this scoreboard, and every time you cross it, you then look at your board with all the polyomino pieces on it, all the patches, and you score how many buttons you've got on there. So the more buttons you get on your board, the more buttons you get back at the end of as you pass every single button. So it's very clever in that sense. That sort of it's very minuscule, but it's like a risk reward there. One thing I will say is we have had a few games where it feels like we know the winner from sort of like the first quarter of the game. One of us just gets a lead. It depends on how the pieces are put out. We can sometimes have a game where you're just stuck, and the other player, because you can only pick 3 pieces ahead of where there's like a little wooden token here, and that's like the marker. So you have all these pieces in a ring around the board, and you can only take a piece from 1, 2, or 3 spaces ahead of this marker, and then when you take that piece, you move the marker forward, and you can have a game sometimes that feels like your opponent just seems to get a really good piece, and that puts you in a position where you can't afford to buy a piece, and you're not stuck because you then move on the scoreboard X amount of spaces and you get a button per space, but you haven't put anything onto your patch. You haven't put any patches onto your board, so it's kind of you just got a little bit of currency to help you for the next time. But when it doesn't do that, when it does work, oh, such a good game. Just try just willing your opponent not to take that one piece that will fit perfectly into your board just where you need it. And you get these little patches as well, so where you cross over the buttons on the scoreboard, you can also cross over a patch, first person to do it. And it's just a 1x1 square, and you can really use that to sort of fill holes where you've messed up. And then another scoring thing is there's also the first person to score a 7x7 square on their 9x9 board gets a little bonus 7 points as well. So you're trying to do that, trying to do a neat, tidy 7x7, and then once that token goes, whether it's to you or your opponent's got it, you just then, right, now I just need to fill as many squares as I can with what little pieces are left, because I get minus points for every exposed square. Several games of this can also end with minus scores. It's a unique game in that respect. You can sort of win like you can have so many buttons, but then you're sort of giving up the points on the minuses, so you can have a big pile of buttons at the end that get wiped out, and the game could end like 3 to -2. But then other times it's worked out where we were like, +10 to 7 or something like that. But yeah, it's a really good 1 versus 1 game. There's a lot of variety available for this. I've just got the base game. They released a Halloween one not too long ago. There's geographical variations I know around the world. There's like a Polish one and sort of Central America one that was really nice. I don't know. I haven't looked in to see if there's any mechanisms that change, but if you just want to find out how good this game is, just buy the base game. It's really, really, really good, and it's going to keep us going for a long time yet. But yeah, that's my number 27. Okay, from one new entry to another, it's another tile laying game. This time it's Calico, a game that is both loved and loathed in equal measure. This is a 1 to 4 player game, designed by Kevin Russ and published by Flat Out Games and AEG. It's so you have a board, a dual layer board. It's really nice. All the components of this are lovely. And there's sort of hexagon tiles of different patterns and different colours that you're trying to place on this board. But you have 3 tiles already placed on them when you start that have certain scoring conditions. So you're trying to. So they have like. So for example, you'd have like A, B, B, which means you have to get say 4 of one colour and 2 tiles of another colour around that hexagon. But that's for the minimum scoring, because you can also do patterns. And if you can do the 4 different colours plus 2 colours, and then 4 different patterns plus 2 patterns, and they don't have to be the same tiles that do that, you can get a maximum amount of points. So you start the game off with all this, available space on your board, and all this potential, and you take a tile, might not be the one you want, put it off to the side there. There's other scoring things as well, by the way. There's if you get 3 of the same colour, you get a coloured button. You get these like really cool colour buttons there's one for each of the 6 colours, and then there's 3 different cats next to the board with certain scoring conditions. So there's like it needs 4 of a certain kind of whatever patterns you place underneath these at chosen random. So lots of replayability because the game's setup is always slightly different. But you get these little cute cat tokens that are worth different points. So you can get these as sort of little side scoring projects on top of your sort of 3 main ones. But what's really clever about the game and what is loved and hated at the same time as you're playing, I don't mean like one group loves it, one group hates it. I mean you as a person will love it and then hate it as you get to the end, and then probably fall in love right at the very end after scoring because it was just super cute playing it. But you start with all this potential on your quilt board, and then you only have 2 tiles to choose from every turn, and then there are 3 tiles sort of in the market. So when you spend a tile onto your blanket, you take one from this choice of 3. So your choices are very limited, and at the end of the game, you're not looking at where you can score good points. You're looking at where you're willing to lose the least amount of points by messing up potential scoring, and you have to just pick one of your 3 scoring tiles and just be like, I'm not going to get that, screw it. So yeah, it gets really, really stressful, really, really thinky, and there might be a little bit of chattering at the beginning of the game, but at the end there's just silence because everyone is just focused on the board. You might have to nudge a player to let them know it's their turn now because they're just trying to plan for every eventuality and how they can line all these tiles up for maximum effect. Because I think there's like one space between them that you can use to score. It can be used in the scoring of all 3 scoring tiles. So if you don't get the right one in there at the beginning of the game, it can really mess things up. But yeah, it's fantastic. It's just a really nice and evil game at the same time. But that's Calico. Okay, it's another new entry on the list, and this game knocked out its father, I guess you would say, and that is Pandemic Legacy Season 1. This is designed by Rob Davio and Matt Leacock and published by Z-Man Games, like all of the Pandemic games are released. This is a 2 to 4 player game, and it's a legacy game, one of only I think 3 on my list. But yeah, so this knocked Pandemic off my list because it's basically Pandemic on steroids. We started the game, I think we played one, we managed to squeeze, no, we were planning to play the game just before the actual pandemic kicked in. That was it. So I'd always wanted to try this game. We were about to, the weekend after I think we had planned for, so we had to postpone it. and then months and months of lockdown, and then there was a small gap. We managed to get one game in, and then back into lockdown again. Um, I've shown you some components from some of the other games while we've been going through this video. For obvious reasons, as a legacy game, I'm not going to get anything out of the box. It's full of top boxes and cards with scratch-off panels that reveal things at the end of each month you play. But yeah, I know some people don't really like the idea of a legacy game. They don't like the idea of one and done. But I think, I mean, the way the game works is you play a game of Pandemic per month, but you get 2 tries. So if you're really good at this game and you win every single match, you play the game 12 times. If you're really, really rubbish, you play the game 24 times because you get 2 per month. We're average, so we've like played 2 on some months and 1 on the other. But every time we have a game night with a couple of my friends, so there's 4 of us playing this, this gets prioritised now because we don't know when the next time we won't be able to play together. So I think we're on about April or May now. But yeah, it's just I'm very protective of the games we have. Little dings in the corner can sometimes upset me when it's a delivery and you're like, oh. And I know a lot of people that just, as long as everything's in the box and you can play it on the table, the corner of the actual box itself doesn't matter to them, and that's fine. Just the way I've grown up, really. I'm just very protective of things that I purchase and buy. So at first thought, when I said I was playing a legacy game, my friends were like, are you going to be all right destroying components? And I know some people kind of destroy them by just putting them under the insert and like out of sight, out of mind, but it's still in one piece. And I thought I would be like that until the moment came early on in the game when we finished something and it said, right, now rip up that card. And I didn't hesitate and I just tore it in half. And my 3 friends, or my girlfriend and my 2 friends at the table, looked on in shock because 1, I don't think they realised their true feelings of destroying components, and 2, they didn't think I was going to just do it like that. Yeah, it's Pandemic. So if you played that, you know what you're doing here up until a point where you finish a month. Like the first month is just Pandemic, pretty much, but then you get a box that adds, say, like a new rule or a new piece of equipment or a new token or new characters or something, and it's like you get excited because sometimes you get little treats even if you lose, which is nice to sort of help you the next time. But it's like an advent calendar. So I really look forward to playing, and I'm looking forward to the story that we're doing. Like we have characters with the nicknames that nobody else will get the references. But yeah, I love that because I'm sort of I guess I'm like the DM for this game. So I open all the boxes. I check all the rules. I stick all the stickers in, and it just feels like we finished playing. What treat are we getting this time? What's going to be revealed? What's going to make our game better next time? So yeah, if you like Pandemic and you've never tried the legacy game, there's a lot of games on the shelf that I haven't played as many times as I would probably end up playing this. There's games that sit on the shelf, and they're good games, but you end up with playing all of these. You end up playing a game maybe 5 or 6 times. That's like an average. So if I can get a minimum of 12 out of this, even for that cost, which isn't that much compared to some big games, it's totally worth it. And as you can see there, these come in 2 covers. There's a red and a blue. I went blue. And I have season 2 down there for when we're finished. And when I'm not on a buying ban again, I'm obviously going to get season 0 just so we've got the set. And I hope to stick with the same group through the entire adventure. But yeah, that's my number 25. So we're over halfway through this list now. But that's Pandemic Legacy season 1. Okay, wait for it. It's another new entry. This is a staple of worker placement collections for most gamers, and it's an older game, but it's one that is an absolute classic, and now I know why since I've played it. It is Lords of Waterdeep. It's a 2 to 5 player, like I say, worker placement game, published by Wizards of the Coast, who do all the D&D stuff, designed by Peter Lee and Rodney Thompson, I believe. It's a lot of people get put off by this because it's got Dungeons and Dragons on it. And at the time, I wasn't really knowledgeable about the dungeons, about D&D or Dungeons and Dragons. I have since started running my first ever campaign, which is so much fun, and we're desperate to get back with my friends to continue that. But yeah, so the D&D moniker kind of puts people off this game because they think it's you need to know all about that stuff and that. And it wasn't until I was working my way through Will Wheaton's tabletop videos that I came across their playthrough of it. And it was one of the, I mean, I've watched I think I've watched pretty much everything. So it was just I fancy watching another of his videos. It's one of the only ones left I haven't seen, so I watched it and realised what the game was actually about. And it was just sort of learning things like Champions of Midgard, Raiders of the North Sea, two Viking worker placements there. And I was realising that worker placement is like my favourite mechanic. So we went to a board game cafe, Dice in Portsmouth, and I knew they had a copy in stock. It turned out to be their last one, and I just went in with the mindset of, I'm walking out with that today. I don't care what else I buy, but I'm walking out with Lords of Waterdeep. And since playing it, I can see why it's so loved. It's an amazing game. I like the mechanic where you start off with a limited amount of workers, and then you get an extra one partway through the game. I love the tightness of all the spaces, because it's very hard to get like a lot of cubes. These cubes represent your sort of adventurers that you're going to use to go on quests. So you take quest cards from the top of the board, and they have certain requirements, like they want certain kind of cubes or money, and you're trying to build up those resources to then pay off that quest card, and that's where you get all your points from. Except for you also have a hidden goal. Every player has a character with a hidden goal. The one that I love and hate is that there's a goal for you get amount of points per building you build, because you can build extra. So you've got certain slots in the middle of the board in the town of Waterdeep, or sorry, city of Waterdeep, but you can build more buildings on the left and right side. But if you build it, you own it. So what happens is if somebody else uses that worker placement slot, you tend to get like a benefit from it. But there's a card that gives you points for every building you own, and my girlfriend now, she will clock when I'm building more than I normally do. So I do build a lot anyway, but it'll get to a point and she'll just build then to block me from getting any more points. Whereas a lot of the other ones are just completing certain types of quests. So you can really pay attention to other players and see, get an idea quite quickly about where they're going, and you can play the game as not only what you're trying to do, but also block them from getting an advantage. I've played this at 2 and 4 player. It works fine as both. Although there's more slots open on a 2-player game, you have the same amount of meeples, so you don't get any more benefits from it really. Obviously with a 4-player game, a lot of the slots are getting filled up quicker, but yeah, it's just it's a really, really good worker placement game. I also have got the expansion, which we've not played with yet, which everyone says get the expansion, you'll never play without it, so we are going to dip our toes into that. And I also went for, the insert was really nice, it did hold everything mostly, but you just couldn't sleeve cards, and some of the little wooden components were like, I had to sort of force them into their slots. It's designed, I mean, the insert is designed perfectly for everything. Everything has its own little slots. But I went for the folded space insert because I knew I wanted the expansion. It's a really weird box as well. I'm not going to show you because it's quite big. But the lid doesn't go all the way down. It only goes sort of an inch down on the top, and then the bottom of the box has got like, it almost looks like there's a sandwich, like the top and the bottom come together with a sort of a filling in it. It's a really odd box. If you ever see it on a shelf, you know what I'm talking about. And we also recently went in for where I've been on a game purchasing ban. I'm starting to look at game extras. So I've looked at stickers for meeples. I've looked at folded space and other inserts, and also for metal coins. And this has some of the nicest metal coins we managed to get hold of. You get sort of crescent shaped ones for represent 5, and then like little square ones with circle cut out the middle. So it's a really nice game to spruce up. People also do meeple shaped wooden components for the adventurers as well. So instead of having the 4 cubes, you get little warrior and wizard type looking meeples. So it's a really good game for that as well. But yeah, one of the best worker placement games I've ever played. That's Lords of Waterdeep. And now we have the final new entry on this block of 10 games. It's a sequel to a well-loved sort of tile-laying game. It is Azul, Stained Glass of Sintra. This is a 2 to 4 player sort of tile-laying game, I guess, designed by Michael Kesling and published by Next Move Games. I purchased the original Azul for some friends for a present, like a Christmas present, and then a couple of visits later they decided to sit down and teach it to me. And it's, I will admit, I'm not dumb, but I struggled with the concept of the scoring for the first Azul so much that I wasn't being watched, and I won the first game found out afterwards I did not win the first game. I was accidentally cheating, and my score was insane. A concern from this was that I thought, I've put that in the app. I won't be able to score it properly again, and the score was too much for me to ever beat, so it would be an unrealistic high score on the app. I've beaten it since, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, so the first 2 games of Azul I ever played, it just confused me. I didn't quite get what was going on with the way that you can place tiles and then you move them across, and then it was like, yeah, per column, per row, and I don't know. But I've played it at 3 and 4 since, now that it's clicked. And Azul is a really, really good game. I do like it. But because my friends have got it in their collection, I wanted to have an Azul game. And I didn't like the look of Summer Pavilion. I don't know why. Something about that game just doesn't appeal to me at all. So we went to Brighton and we visited Dave's Comics, and I picked up Stained Glass of Sintra, which comes with some really nice clear plastic things. And I don't know if they have these in other countries, but if you grew up with cough sweets in the 80s and 90s, these always remind me of tunes. Yeah, I have since found out whenever people rank the Azul games, Stained Glass usually comes bottom, and a lot of people say that they played it once and don't like it, or that they won't even include it in their collection. Of the 2 I've played so far, it's my favourite. I really like the mechanism of so you have your board at the bottom, and then you have I think 10 maybe tall thin pieces of cardboard with different coloured squares on them, which is where you place your coloured tiles when you draft them from the what they say are factories, what we all call coasters. But when you finish one side, you then flip that over and you sort of mark at the bottom you've done it once, and then you fill the second side in, and then it's gone from your board for the rest of the game. So you're trying to complete these. And there's a really clever mechanic where you have your sort of worker at the top, and you can only place tiles in columns to the right of him. And when you place, you then move him up to that space. So then now you've just taken out all these ones behind you, and you have to waste an action on another turn to move him back, or hope that you can fit the tiles in front of you. And then there's more scoring at the bottom when you finish the game about these. I can't remember the name of these points are on the bottom of the scoreboard, but depending on how many tiles you have around it, like 2, 3, or 4, then you get more points as well. So you're trying to score columns next to each other twice to get the maximum amount of points, like 10 points from these at the end of the game. But yeah, I just find this a lot simpler than base Azul. I like that. Because these wooden cardboard bits as well that you're scoring on, you randomise those each game, so either side and in any order. So your board is never the same twice. Whereas the main Azul one, I think, is always obviously the same layout because it's just a plain single board. What's nice about this one is the mechanism. So if you take first player marker from the middle, like you do in base Azul, you break a pane of glass, and if you can't place the glass, you break a pane of glass for each one, and there's like a little marker that gives you minus points down the middle as well. So sometimes you just have to sacrifice and know that you're going to break a piece of glass to take the ones you need. But yeah, I don't know why I mean, is there anyone else out there that prefers stained glass to the other Azul games? Put it in the comments if you're one of them, one of the few. We can form a little band of rebels maybe and start pushing this game to be more popular and successful. But yeah, so that is my number. Where are we? 23, and that is Azul 2. Right, we're on to game 22 of the list now, and we're moving away from new entries to an existing game from last year's list. It's down 13 places, and that is Century Golem Edition. This is a 2 to 5 player game designed by Emerson Matsushi and published by Plan B Games. It's a reskin of Century. It's just, instead of that being sort of trading spices in the Far East or whatever it is, this is golems and some really nice fantastical artwork. I'm just going to put that down there. It is primarily a card drafting game and sort of deck building as well. So the aim of the game is to get enough gems that you can buy these golems. That's not the best one in the game. Here we go. So you're sort of collecting gems on your caravan, of which you can hold up to a maximum of 10. There's 4 different colours gems. I'll show you these in a minute. But you get the points on the card, and you also, if it's placed 1 or 2 in the row where these are laid out, there's coin bonuses as well you can get. But yeah, so you're paying this fee, but you do that by manipulating. Let me just get these out. The gems, really nice. So there's yellow, then green, then blue, then pink. The order of these is important because you sort of work up a chain when you're manipulating them, and you do that by drafting different cards that have different abilities on them. So this one, if you've got a pink gem, you can cash that in and you get 2 greens and 2 yellows. Everyone starts off with the same 2 cards. I think it's take 2 yellow gems or upgrade 2 gems. So you can either upgrade both yellows to green, or you can upgrade 1 yellow to blue. And yeah, that's all you're doing, is you're just manipulating your gems to pay for the cost of a golem card. You take that off, shuffle them down, get a new golem in. First person to, depends on the player count, but the first person to get to that score. I haven't got the coins in the box for some reason. But yeah, I've played a few games at sort of 3 and 4. I've played most of my games at 2. It was on our 10x10 this year. It was I think it might be the first game we finished, because it can be a really quick game. My girlfriend and I got to the point of like our turns are really, really quick, and we even have a mechanism where we tap the cards when we're lifting up our discard pile, because every time you play a card to manipulate the gems, you put it down, and you can't use that again until you use an action to pick up those cards. So it's trying to time the best point. You can take it early and get your cards back, because you can see a nice little chain you could do. But anyway, so yeah, if you watch us play, it's just like we're the second person's manipulating gems as the first person's just finished, and we know we're not getting each other's way, and we just do this, do that. So I'm taking this card, and I think it says like a 30 to 45 minute play time, maybe for the higher player counts, but we can get a game of this done in like 10-15 minutes. It's just really nice. I love the artwork. That's what drew me to it at first. I liked the actual gameplay and was interested in the original Century, and then I saw that there was this edition, and it's just instead of the wooden cubes for the resources, these nice gems come in these nice trays. It's also part of a trilogy like the Century games. So there's this game, which is sort of card drafting and set collection. Card drafting and deck building. Second one is like pick up and deliver, and the third one's worker placement. And the same as the original series, this series you can play. It's very clever how they do it, and we haven't tried it yet. We've played all the games individually, but you can pair them up as well. So you can play 1 and 2, or 1 and 3, or 1, 2, and 3, all mashed into this massive engine building game. We haven't played number 2 and number 3 half as much as we played this game, and not just because it's on our 10x10, just because this is our favourite of the 3. So we're not really ready to meld them together and make sort of like the combined versions of these. But yeah, this is just a really nice, fun, easy to teach, easy to play, good looking game, and that's Century Golem Edition. And finally, for today's list, we start with the small game. We're going to end with a small game. This is down 9 places from last year. Yep, and it is Roll For It. This is a 2 to 4 player game. Although if you buy a second version of this, the Purple Edition, you can play with up to 8 people. It's designed by Chris Leader and published by Calliope Games. And this, I mentioned this when I talked about Unearth in the last video, and this is a more basic version of Unearth. So the gaming group that I used to have before I was really into board games. A couple of friends around. I'm talking about, we used to play Cards Against Humanity, Exploding Kittens, sort of those games you can pick up in the supermarket. This became our opener. So the guys would come around and we'd get the food ready and we'd sit around and chat, and then as we were talking, it would just progress to the table and the game would just start. It was always our little warm-up game. But you get each player gets 6 tiny little dice. The blue ones are mine by default. And on the table you have 3 cards. There's blues, which are worth 2 points, and then there's purple worth 15 points. So the big ones, they've got 6 dice on them. But the aim of the game is to roll your dice and then sort of commit the dice that match with these cards. So I would have to roll 2 3s and 2 5s to then claim that card. But you don't have to do it on that turn. you can sort of bank what you've got. So if I just had 2 5s, I could put those forward, and the rest of my dice I could roll my next turn. But between turns, another player could get the 4 dice that's needed, steal that card from underneath me, and then I just get my dice back, and I've lost out on those points. It's first to 40. It's such a simple game. It's like 80% luck. There is some, not skill to it, but maybe tactics. Like where you're going to commit your dice, how it's spread too thin, because you can go for multiple cards if you want to. But the caveat is that if you want to pick up, if there's a dice you don't want to commit to a card anymore, and you've laid like 3 or 4 across different cards or on one card, if you want that dice back, you have to take back all the dice you've got across all the cards. You can't just, I want that one back. So sometimes you can get in a position where you've overcommitted to, especially one of the 15-point cards, which is like 6 6s, and you've committed to that, and you've got 2 dice left, and you can't go for any other cards because you won't be able to get the full amount of points until you roll for the big one. So it's like, do I go for the short and easy 2-pointers that just require 2 dice, or do I go for this big 15-pointer to win the game? We've had a lot of games where it gets down to everyone. There's like a 15-point card on the table, and all of us are at different degrees of if we get that 15-point. Like one person's just 1 point away from winning, one's 14 points away from winning, and we've all committed all of our dice, and we've all got 1 dice left. And this has happened several times. It makes for a great finale, and it's just frantic rolling because, like, say you just need a 1, and you roll, you don't get it. You snatch your dice back when the next person's up, and it just goes so fast until that one person gets the 1, takes the card, victory. And then we just go again. We play like 2 or 3 games of this in a row before we go on to our main event. Like I say, you can get the red version. I do have the purple edition behind, and then there's a sort of like special edition that comes with 8 players worth of equipment in a nice gold tin. Ironically, I thought that was too expensive, so I got the cheaper version, but in buying both versions now, I could have got the nice fancy version, which is the one you'll see on Will Wheaton's tabletop video. He plays with a nice version. Yeah, it's just a fun little filler game, a fun little opener game, and I think every collection should have a game like Roll4 in it. Yeah, so that's 30 down to 21. So that's our 3rd video done in my top 50. We're moving on to the big guns now. It's the final 20 games, and I'm trying to keep these videos short. When I originally planned them, I thought it was going to be like a 15-minute video in total, like a quick 1 or 2 minutes about each game. But I get so excited, I can't stop rambling on about things. I want to give you information about the game, but I also want to tell you why I like it. But then I have stories about certain games, like moments that have happened I want to share. So I warn you now that the first video was 35 minutes. The second video was 45. I forgot to see how long this one was, but I can't promise that the final video, my top 10, won't be an hour long or more, like a Michael Bay epic. But yeah, thanks for watching again. Thanks for working through the series if you have, to see as we get closer to the number 1 spot. I hope there's some nice surprises in here. I hope there's some games that you might not have heard of or barely considered getting, and now they're of interest to you. I apologise to any bank accounts or partners that aren't happy with this. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you want some more content, I'm over at Instagram at alwaysplayblue. I have my website, which I've not tended for a while, and I need to get back into that, but that is alwaysplayblue.com. And as before, in the last video, there will be another video next Wednesday. So thank you very much. This has been Always Play Blue. Until next week.